there's going to be environmental issues, and we know the agriculture community is very much connected to the effect that things are having on our planet. Relatedly, I yield to Senator Hansen for purpose of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 86.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to ask that Senate Concurrent Resolution number 86 be brought before the Senate and read in by title only.
Mr. Reading Clerk, kindly read in Senate Concurrent Resolution 86, title only.
Senate Concurrent Resolution number 86, sponsored by Senator Hansen, Representative Phillips, requesting that Delaware Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control to update their 2022 report to the governor and legislature on options for a non-tidal wetlands permitting program. Madam President, that concludes the reading of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 86 by title only.
We have before us Senate Concurrent Resolution number 86. Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam President. A couple of years ago, we passed Senate Joint Resolution number 2, which asked DNREC to take a look into what it would look like for us to develop a state non-tidal wetlands permitting program. And so that report took about a year or so to get together and was actually delivered to us. It's on options for a non-tidal wetland permitting program that you see. You did get a copy of it. But as of the writing of that report, there were a number of things that were outstanding at the federal level. In particular, the federal government was in the process of changing regulations regarding wetlands, and there was a pending Supreme Court decision, Sackett versus EPA. And one of the things that the Department of Natural Resources mentioned in the report that they gave to us is they felt that the legal, administrative, and fiscal requirements of a Delaware non-tidal wetland program could not be fully determined within the SCR2 report because of those outstanding issues. So at this point, that particular reg writing process has concluded, and the Sackett versus EPA case has been decided at the Supreme Court level. So what this resolution says is it asks DNREC to go back, and now given that those two issues have concluded, if you could update the report with any particular new information as a result of those two things. That's it.
Senator Hawker.
A question for the sponsor.
Senator Tilliam.
I sat on that task force when we studied this, the non-tidal wetlands, and one of the big reasons why we decided not to do anything or go any farther was the amount of property the non-tidal wetlands was already agricultural land and wouldn't be touched. Do you know what percentage that is?
No, I do not know what percentage that is. I can tell you that in this report, the SJR2 report, they felt that about 30,000 acres or so in the state were not regulated by either a state or a federal wetland program.
Senator Hawker?
If I remember right, it was over 93% were already in ag lands that would never be affected by this. So I don't know why this is such important with 90-some% of the non-tidal wetlands, and that's what we decided on the task force a few years ago.
Senator Hansen?
I think, though, Senator, is that a lot of that was also based on the fact that it was regulated under the federal government. See, a large part of our non-tidal wetland program was and has been for all time our dependence on what the federal government is doing, their federal regulatory jurisdiction. Now that the Supreme Court has actually come back and made the decision in Sackett versus EPA, they've sort of changed that. They've made a big change to that. They've cut back on, some estimates are 43% of what had been under federal regulation for non-tidal wetlands will no longer be regulated. That really cuts into whatever number the task force came up with before and whatever was in this report here. And what that number is important for us to know. So that's what this resolution is about. It's saying, okay, now that we know that this pivotal Supreme Court case has been decided, and we know that in a state, we are dependent on, to a large degree, what the federal government's jurisdiction is, how does that affect us now? We're asking DNREC to tell us how it affects us.
Senator Lawson.
I yield.
Senator Hocker, did you have another comment?
What I do remember, and I wish I had those things, Madam President, was that what we were dealing with in that task force was non-federally regulated lands, and over 93% of that was agricultural land that would never fall under any, that would never ever have to be regulated because it would never be developed.
Senator Hansen.
Madam President, all I can say is that we have had changing federal and state regulations, generally federal, but some state regulations as well over time. And all we're asking DNREC to do at this point is tell us, as of today, given that there has been a change in jurisdiction, a change at the federal level, how does that affect the conclusions that you reached in the report?
Senator Lawson.
Thank you. Question for the sponsor, if I may.
Certainly.
A brief rundown. What does that decision do? It just took land out of federal control. The court said, no, you don't need to control that?
Yes, it
Senator
came
Lawson,
down.
Hansen.
Excuse me. Yes, it came down to the determination of what qualifies as waters of the United States. And so the things that qualify as waters of the United States are those things that would be under federal jurisdiction. What the Supreme Court said is we've taken a look at how that was defined in the past. And now we're saying, I believe that what they're saying is that unless there is a consistent water flow in the body, that it doesn't qualify now as waters of the United States. Previously, it could be inconsistent. It could be ephemeral streams. It could be things that didn't have a continuous water connection. And so now that the federal government the Supreme Court has changed the definition of what qualifies as a under waters of the United States, that changes now what is regulated here at our state level in the state, because we depend on that decision, on that definition.
Senator Lawson.
So now we want to make them waters of Delaware as opposed to the United
Senator
States?
Hansen.
Senator, that's certainly a step in the future that we can talk about. I think what we want to know right now is, what does it look like on the ground for us? What is now above and beyond the 30,000 acres that was mentioned in the report here? Now that the Supreme Court has come down with Sackett versus EPA, in which they have curtailed what even they consider to be non-tidal wetlands, how many more acres in Delaware of important non-tidal freshwater wetlands are no longer under federal jurisdiction?
So if I understand right, if I may,
Senator Lawson.
so the bill simply says we want to know how many acres that this may increase? If,
The
or whatever
resolution.
the effect
Senator
is, if I may, and that's all the resolution says. Am I correct in that? We're not asking to identify these lands as wetlands that will be controlled by the state?
That's correct.
Senator
Okay. That's all I was asking. Thank you.
That's correct.
Senator Buxton, you'd risen.
Thank you, Madam President. I am not certain, but I believe at about 12:20s, thereabouts, this bill or resolution came to us as an understanding, of which I was in committee and quite tied up. This isn't just a modest ask. This isn't something that says recognize a month. This is a change. And the process for presenting that to us shows us that you don't appreciate the minority side. You don't appreciate the fact that while we don't have the ability to stop you, it would be nice if you at least respected us and showed us this in advance. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Anyone else? Senator, I don't see anyone else.
Roll call.
Mr. Secretary, would you kindly call roll on Senate Concurrent Resolution number 86?
Senator Brown. Yes. Senator Buxton. No. Senator Gay. Yes. Senator Hansen. Yes. Senator Hocker. No. Senator Hoffner. Yes. Senator Huxtable. Yes. Senator Lawson. No. Senator Lockman. Yes. Senator Mansavinos. Yes. Senator McBride. Yes. Senator Pardee. Yes. Senator Pettyjohn. No. Senator Pinckney. Yes. Senator Poore. Absent. Senator Richardson. Absent. Senator Sokola. Yes. Senator Sturgeon. Yes. Senator Townsend. Yes. Senator Walsh. Yes. Senator Wilson? No.
Senator Poor?
Senator Poor from absent to yes. Madam President, the roll call on Senate Concurrent Resolution number 86, 15 yes, 5 no, and 1 absent.
Having received the required and sufficient number of votes, Senate Concurrent Resolution 86 declare pass the Senate. Senator Townsend.